Project Wingman is a game I've been waiting a long time for. I remember 15 years ago when this game was announced, I thought, wow, it's time to contribute to this Kickstarter. Project Wingman was funded by the Ace Combat community on Kickstarter, but unlike most Kickstarters, the devs actually delivered. If you're watching this video, you probably already know what the game is. Heck, you probably already played it 5 times like me, but in case you don't know, Project Wingman is an arcade-style flight action game where you pilot a non-copyright infringing aircraft and kill people in a variety of exotic locales. Your plane can carry like 300 missiles, and in every single mission you get more kills than that one pizza guy. Basically, if you're looking for an in-depth flight simulator, this is not it. But if you're looking for a fun game, then you found a winner. The dev team is mostly 1 or 2 guys, so it's not going to have that AAA level of polish that Ace Combat has, but what they've managed to accomplish here is still pretty orange. Controller-wise, gamepads work fine, my flight stick worked fine, but people on Steam are saying theirs didn't, so maybe check the forums before you buy it. And mouse and keyboard controls are, I mean, they exist. You could probably play the game with them. I wouldn't advise it, but hey, if people can beat Dark Souls with a Steam controller, then I guess anything's possible. Graphically, the game looks good. It seems like they dumped most of their budget into particle effects, so when there's hundreds of missiles flying around and railguns firing away, it looks really cool. I did experience a few slight frame drops in particularly frantic situations, but for the most part, the game ran smoothly. What didn't go quite as smoothly was the VR implementation. I have these specs and a HP Reverb headset, which you probably haven't even heard of, but it's a quality headset that served me well this year for Half-Life Alyx and nothing else. I found that I had to lower the graphics down to around medium to get a stable frame rate in VR, which is not a huge deal because the game still looks fine, but like a lot of VR games, the main problem is the menus are way too small. It's the same menu you normally use with a mouse, but now it's just further away and blurrier. Wow. Menus that are more optimized for VR would be a nice update in the future. Another annoying thing is that your head isn't physically in the cockpit, it's more of just a fixed position for the camera. This means that you can't physically move your head forward to see more of the radar or lean backwards to see more of the sky. It's a small thing, but it did kind of annoy me. When the VR is working well though, man, it's pretty good. The sense of speed you get when flying low to the ground, the way your brain tells you to please stop when you spin in a circle for too long, and most importantly, the feeling of physically moving your head to track targets. This was the coolest part for me because seeing a guy flying above you and slowly turning your plane to line him up with your gaze before blowing him out of the sky never gets old. It's a really cool feeling to actually have to look around you and see the enemies with your eyes instead of the game just telling you where they are. People said the same thing about Ace Combat 7's VR mode, but I never played that one because it was on PSVR. Ugh, and also it had Tango Line as a song. Ugh, disgusting. But Project Wingman's VR, when it works, is pretty cool. Alright, now that I'm done with the boring technical stuff so I can legally classify this as a review, let's talk about the gameplay. Did you know there are 3 kinds of Project Wingman players? Those who seek a single-player campaign, those who live for the roguelike Conquest mode, and those that can actually read the UI in VR. The game takes place in an alternate reality where a calamity messed up the Earth and made Hawaii big. This calamity was so bad that historians got rid of frickin' Anno Domini over here and now call the time period after Calamity, or the AC era. It's subtle. In the 21 mission campaign, you play as a guy called Monarch, who's in charge of the Hitman team, who's part of the Sicario mercenary group, who's contracted by the Cascadians to fight the Federation, which is basically just Ozia. Ah, crap. I didn't make it very far without comparing it to Ace Combat, did I? You can pick from a bunch of real-world aircraft that have their names scrambled for copyright reasons, and also the F-22 has little baby wings now. And unlike Ace Combat, there's actually a reason to not just pick the superplane for every mission. If you pick a 2-seater plane, you get a wacky sidekick named Prez. She has special dialogue that you can only hear when flying a 2-seater, so you better upgrade the crap out of that F-14.
We should tell him to shut up one of these days, don't you think?
Oh wait, you actually can't upgrade your planes in this game. Man, that sucks. What am I gonna do without my plus 3% to yaw speed? Oh well, I guess I'm just gonna have to settle for taking 3 special weapons. That's right, most of the planes in this game let you have 3 special weapons. No longer do you have to choose between the multi-lock missiles or the fast missiles. You can just bring them both. This is a great change from Ace Combat because let's face it, it is kind of annoying to only be able to have one type of special weapon. Like, yeah, it balances the game, but in terms of explosions caused per minute, Project Wingman has Ace Combat beat by a mile. One mechanic from Ace Combat that I'm surprised that I missed was mission timers. None of the missions in Project Wingman have timers, which initially made me go... But the more I played, the more I found myself missing them. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but most of the missions are just destroy all the enemies on the map, and without a timer, there's really no sense of urgency to them. I feel like even a very generous time limit would still add some kind of driving force to your actions. I think that would help minimize the feeling I got sometimes of flying around aimlessly shooting stuff by forcing me to put some kind of thought into my route. Now, I'm sure if there were mission timers, I'd probably be complaining about those as well, but hey, this is just my honest gut reaction to playing the game for the first time. I think it needs some timers. Never thought I'd say that, but here we are. Another thing that annoyed me greatly was the clouds. You can't freaking see anything when you're in a cloud, and I know Ace Combat 7 was also like this, but for some reason it seems way more annoying in this game. It might be that I crashed into the ocean one time because I thought it was a sky and I'm salty, but I don't like the clouds, they're stupid. What didn't piss me off was the boatload of Ace Combat references scattered throughout the campaign. Project Wingman just nails the tone and feeling of Ace Combat really well. There's plenty of radio chatter pulled straight from AC, and also missions that are, let's say, heavily inspired by some iconic Ace Combat missions. I won't spoil them because they're a lot of fun to discover. Let's just say as an Ace Combat fan, I was very happy. I mean, just look at this. If I told you this was a mission opening from Ace Combat 8, you'd probably believe me. Oh my god, I love it. The overarching narrative of the game is alright, I guess. Due to the low budget, there's no cutscenes, everything is just relayed in mission briefings and in-flight dialogue, which is fine, except for one really long dialogue scene at the end of Act 2 where it's just this JPEG on the screen and a bunch of characters who all sound exactly the same talking for 10 minutes. Also, the ending of the game felt like it was trying to be a subversion of the classic Ace Combat story, which didn't really work for me, but hey, let's not kid ourselves. Are we really going to pretend Scrap Queen's story made sense?
None of us knew what the hell was going on.
But even a mundane story can be elevated by a good soundtrack, and Project Wingman's does not disappoint. You got your soaring orchestral heroic songs, serious, sad time, emotional songs, extreme rock and roll Top Gun songs, and snowmobile chase scene songs. Definitely a worthy addition to your study music playlist. Overall, the campaign gets an A rank from me, but the campaign's not the only thing this game has to offer. Conquest mode is a roguelike game mode where you pick randomly generated missions from a world map, and if you die, you lose everything and start over. You start off doing some easy old score 3,000 points type missions, but it quickly escalates into large-scale battles where you'll easily be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of missiles flying at you. But you don't have to fight alone. In between missions, you can spend your points to buy allies in the form of fighter jets and flying battleships. You'll want as many allies as possible solely for the fact that they can draw fire away from you, but they aren't useless. They actually can hold their own and kill a lot of the enemies for you. To prevent you from just building a massive army and steamrolling every mission, there's a constant timer called the alert meter that slowly fills up while you're in missions. Every time the bar fills, the enemy spawns get tougher, and by the time you reach double digits, you better say your prayers because you're going to be up against some serious firepower. I usually hate roguelikes, but I actually really enjoy this one. Granted, it is just a clone of my favorite game ever, but the permadeath aspect really adds something. Playing the same campaign missions over and over is fun, but there's no real stakes to it. With Conquest, you slowly but surely build up your army of planes, and once you've got a good build, you really will not want to lose it. But you inevitably will lose it by crashing into one of the stupid flying battleships. That's happened to me like 9 times now. Don't laugh! It'll happen to you too. Out of all of the games that have tried to emulate Ace Combat over the years, Project Wingman feels like the first worthy addition to the Ace Combat canon. If you're looking for Ace Combat gameplay with a fresh set of missions and cool new weapons to play around with, including the most overpowered superplane I've ever seen, you'll have a great time with Project Wingman. And any slight apprehensions I have about recommending it are easily outweighed by the fact that it's only $25, which is a steal compared to Ace Combat 7, which is still 60 smackers. And while that game does have a slap-together multiplayer mode, which Project Wingman is lacking, I much prefer Conquest mode for quick doses of Ace Combat action, and I hope Project Aces takes some notes and adds a similar mode to their next game. Truly, the student has become the master. Just maybe tone down the orange a little bit next time. So, on a scale of Star Citizen to Shovel Knight, Project Wingman gets Undertale. All 3 of those games were kickstarted, if you didn't get the joke.